Many immigrants face unique challenges when renting here in the UK. One major challenge is understanding the rental market, which can be overwhelming, especially if you're new to the country. You might struggle to find the right area, navigate the complex legal requirements of renting in the UK, and dealing with potential discrimination. Add to that is the stress of adjusting to a new country and culture, and it is no wonder that finding a place to call home here in the UK can be a daunting task for many newbies. Unfortunately, when it comes to renting here in the UK, many immigrants often find themselves in a vulnerable position, and they can't be preyed upon by scrupulous letting agents and landlords. With that said, in this video, I will share what you need to know and factors to consider when renting here in the UK to protect yourself from the brutal rental market here in the UK. By the time you're done watching this video, you would be able to confidently navigate the UK rental market, avoid pitfalls, and maximize your renting experience. From knowing what to expect when dealing with landlords or letting agents, to understanding your right here in the UK when it comes to renting, finding the right area, and securing references to understanding the nuances of rental laws, I will cover everything in this video. So whether you're a student, a professional, or you're just starting out your life here in the UK as maybe a dependent, this tip will give you the edge you need to find the perfect rental property here in the UK. By the end of this video, right, you will be empowered to take control of your rental journey and make the most of your time here in the UK, because we all know that housing, having a house or having a roof over your head, is very essential for living here in the UK. Now, the first thing you need to know when it comes to renting here in the UK is affordability check. Now, in the UK, when renting a property, landlords or letting agents here in the UK will typically carry out an affordability check to ensure that you, the tenants, can afford the rent. The affordability check normally involves an income assessment, credit check, employment verification, and guarantor check if needed. Now, for income assessments, landlords here in the UK will generally expect their tenants to have like a gross annual income of at least 2.5 to 3 times the annual rent. This means that if the monthly rent is like £1,000, the tenant's annual income should be between £30,000 and £36,000. This check is always critical as it ensures you can comfortably afford the rent without compromising on your other financial obligations. So some landlords in the UK will use this guideline of 30% of the tenant's monthly income for their rent affordability. Sometimes you can use your savings to prove that you can cover the rent here in the UK, especially if you are self-employed or you have irregular income, or you just moved to the UK and you're yet to have a job, or you're yet to be paid for your job and things like that. Now, these savings could include a lump sum of money from a recent sales if you already live here in the UK, or the money you brought from your home country when you came to the UK, if you're a newbie, or a constant income from an investment, or a regular contribution from maybe a family member or a friend. Anything, to just prove that, you have savings or you have backing financially. Furthermore, a credit check is usually carried out to review your financial history, including any outstanding debt, missed payments, like if you've missed any payments in the past, or CCJ, so that's county court judgment, so that they want to know if you've ever been bankrupt and things like that. Now, this credit check just shows the landlord or the letting agent that you are financially responsible, or you are responsible when it comes to your finances, or you are responsible when it comes to financing your lifestyle, basically. Also, letting agents or landlords may verify your employment. They would ask you for proof of employment or income, such as your recent pay slips, bank statements, or a reference from an employer to confirm your financial stability, just to know that you can afford the house you want to rent and you have a job. Basically, they need you to have a job. Likewise, a guarantor may be required if your income does not meet the threshold needed, or if you have a poor credit score or you just moved to the UK. Now, a guarantor is someone who agrees to cover the rent if you cannot pay it. Your guarantor can be a family member or a close friend, but they must also pass the affordability check to ensure that they too can meet the rent payments, and they would also have to agree that they would cover the rent if you cannot pay the rent. So they have to be able to pass the affordability check, because if they cannot pay the rent, what is the essence of them being your guarantor? Now, as an immigrant here in the UK, you may be asked to provide a UK-based guarantor who agrees to cover your rent if you cannot. Now, it can be a challenge if you don't know anyone here in the UK, like you just moved to the UK, you don't know anyone. So there are some services here in the UK that allows you to pay for a guarantor, or you might need to offer several months rent upfront just to secure the tenancy. Like a lot of landlords or letting agents will agree if you say, okay, I'll pay 6 months upfront because I don't have a guarantor. At least they know that for the next 6 months, your rent have been paid, and hopefully you'll be able to pay the rent moving forward after that time. Now, this affordability checks just helps that you as a tenant are reliable and can meet the rent obligations, reducing the risk to the landlord or the letting agent. Now, the second thing you want to know about when it comes to renting here in the UK is that before you embark on the rental journey, it is critical to grasp the legal obligations of tenants and landlords here in the UK, as they might differ from your home country or whatever country you are coming from to the UK. It is important to understand this, because this understanding will actually equip you with the necessary knowledge and confidence to navigate the UK rental market fairly, so that you know that you will not be preyed upon, because they know that your journey just come, you don't know anything, so they can charge you and do you anyhow. You need to know what's expected of you and what is expected of your landlord, and what recourse you have if things go wrong. By understanding your rights, you can avoid common mistakes that can cost you time and money and stress when it comes to renting here in the UK. Like for instance, here in the UK, when it comes to the end of your tenancy and you and your landlord cannot come to a resolution when it comes to what they need to deduct from your deposit or what you're willing to pay, you can always go to like a government-backed deposit dispute scheme to, challenge that. But you must ensure that when you pay that deposit, your deposit was already in this scheme, or deposit will be protected with this scheme. And after 30 days of paying your deposit, you must ensure that your landlord sends you like a written document saying that yes, your rent is being protected by a government-backed deposit protecting scheme here in the UK. So that at the end of your tenancy, right, you'll be able to dispute this if you don't want to pay for whatever damage your landlord is saying you should pay for. And here in the UK, before you can rent a property as an immigrant, you would have to do the right to rent check. So it is a legal requirement to rent a house here in the UK for any migrant. It's not discrimination, it's just what the UK government has put in place just to curb illegal migration. Now, the UK law requires that landlords to verify a tenant's immigration status before they rent their house to them, to ensure that they have the legal right to rent and live here in the UK. So be prepared to show your passport, your visa, or any other relevant document to prove that you have the right to live, work, or study, or rent here in the UK, all of that. So how you do your right to rent check is that you go on gov.uk, do your right to rent check. Once you do that, you will generate a share code which you will send to the letting agent or the landlord. And once they can verify that, they will rent their house to you. Basically, that's how that works. Now, when it comes to the legal aspect of renting a house here in the UK, you also need to familiarize yourself with the tenancy agreement, or how tenancy agreements work here in the UK, because a tenancy agreement is a legal document outlining the terms and conditions of your rental. Now, before you sign your tenancy agreement, ensure you read it carefully to understand your rights and obligations, such as your notice period, rent increases, how it will be done, and the responsibility for the property maintenance to avoid defaulting on your rental agreement. Because if you default on it, they can literally take you to court or remove your deposit, because you already signed it. It's an agreement. Now, let me talk about the types of tenancy here in the UK. So basically, in the UK, there are different types of tenancy agreements, but the most common is the assured short hold tenancy. That is the AST for short. Typically, it will last for 6 to 12 months. Now, these tenancy agreements can be renewed or allowed to roll by the landlord or letting agent on a month-to-month basis after the fixed term has expired. There's also something called a shared tenancy. So here in the UK, we have shared tenancy for those who are on a budget, or those who want to live in the city and they want to share a flat or a house with others just to be able to afford it. And when it comes to this, you want to ensure that everyone living in that apartment is on the tenancy agreement, just to avoid any legal issues. Now, if you have watched this point, it can only mean one thing. It means you find this video valuable. So please give this video a thumbs up so that it can be recommended to other people, so that they can also benefit from the information in this video. And do well to share this video with someone you think will find it beneficial. Now, let me move on to my fourth talking point, which is how to budget for your rental costs, basically. Now, why the monthly rent you'll be paying, or the yearly rent, or however you'll be paying your rent, is the primary cost when it comes to renting here in the UK. It is also essential to consider several additional expenses. By budgeting for these expenses, you can be rest assured of your financial security, and that you would have control over the cost of renting a house or the house you're renting during your tenancy. Now, one cost you would have to put in mind apart from the monthly rent or the yearly rent is your deposit. Here in the UK, landlords or letting agents usually require a deposit equivalent to 4 to 6 weeks rent upfront. This deposit is held in a government-backed scheme like the Deposit Protection Scheme. That's the DPS for short. I think I touched on it earlier in the video, which protects you and the landlord when it comes to like dispute or what they want to remove from your deposit and what they don't want to remove from your deposit. You also have to think about council tax. So depending on the property and the location, council tax can be a significant additional cost to your rental expenses. Now, some exemptions or discounts apply, such as if you're a full-time student, you don't need to pay for council tax, but you need to verify these details with your local council so that you don't default on that. You also need to think about your utility bills. You want to consider your electric, water, gas, and internet if they are not like included in the rent, and you will need to budget for them separately. You also want to think about the agency fees and holding deposits. Now, some letting agents or landlords in the UK may charge you fees. You want to ensure you understand what charges applies before you proceed to renting a house. Just understand the overall charge of renting a house in the UK, or the expenses of renting a house in the UK. Is very important to do that. The fifth thing you want to think about when it comes to renting here in the UK is location, because where you live in the UK can significantly impact the cost and the quality of your life. Like, your quality of life can be affected based on where you live here in the UK. Now, famous cities like London, Manchester, Birmingham, Edinburgh have a competitive rental market, with rent often higher than smaller towns or rural areas or commuter towns. Now, you want to put this into consideration when you're looking for where to rent here in the UK. So if you want to live in a major city and you probably cannot afford it, you might consider living in a commuter town so that you can easily commute to the city you want to probably live in and you could not live in. So things like this, you want to put them into consideration. Likewise, before you rent, consider the property's proximity to your workplace or educational institution, if you're in school, or if any of your family members is in school, or if any of your family members is working and you're not working. You want to consider this because commuting costs here in the UK can actually add up. So you want to consider living in a place where the public transportation is good, or living in a place that is very close to your daily destination, because this can save you money and time. Likewise, you want to research the safety of the neighborhood. Websites like police.uk provides crime statistics for various areas here in the UK. It is also helpful to visit the area where you want to live at different times of the day to get a feel of the neighborhood, because an area that might be quiet in the morning can be very loud and rough in the night. You want to consider the local amenities in the area. You want to consider your proximity to like these shops, like grocery stores, medical facilities, and parks. This can enhance your experience or your quality of life in the new place where you want to live. The vibrancy of an area also, it is essential you do your research on that, especially if you enjoy social activities and like cultural experience. Now, my sixth talking point is on furnishing. Here in the UK, some rental property come fully furnished, partly furnished, or unfurnished. So I'll explain what I mean. So a fully furnished house or apartment is ideal for those moving from abroad with limited belongings, or those who will be moving around a lot in the UK. This will typically include essential furniture such as beds, sofas, and kitchen appliances. Like, it will come fully furnished. Some will even have cutleries, plates, cups, and all of that. Now, partly furnished means some items may be included, but you may need to purchase additional furnitures. Do you get what I mean? Like, not everything would be included, like fully furnished. Now, for unfurnished, these properties typically offer a blank slate, allowing you to bring your own furniture. Now, one thing you need to keep in mind is that here in the UK, fully furnished rental properties are most likely to be more expensive than partly furnished and unfurnished rental property. In my opinion, I would say if you're just coming to the UK and you'll be moving a lot, you should go for a fully furnished house or apartment, because it just gives you the flexibility of leaving everything behind and just packing only your bags and going to somewhere else. You know, you're not tied to fancy, like you're not tied to your belongings. You know, you're not thinking of how will you carry this furniture, how will you carry this mattress and stuff like that. So when you first move to the UK, you might want to consider furnished properties, but it might be expensive. When my husband and I left my student accommodation when we first moved to the UK, we actually moved to like a luxurious apartment in the heart of Manchester, and it was fully furnished. And I will tell you, that was one of the best decisions we made, because for the time when we were there, like for 1 year, it was amazing. It gave us time to settle in, and when we were moving, we didn't have to worry about furniture. Like, we literally called a bus to carry us to our house that we moved in before we then left that house to move to where we were. And when we moved into that house was partly furnished, in the sense that the kitchen was fully equipped, but obviously there wasn't furniture. We just went to the charity shop and got some affordable furniture. I think it cost us about £500 to furnish the 2-bed house we moved in after we left our luxurious city center apartment, and we got a sofa, bed, mattress, you know, for £500. It was a bargain. But they really did not last us, because we could not bring them to our house that we bought when we moved, because we wanted to get like more solid furnitures. But going for an unfurnished house would save you money if you are willing to like get stuff from charity shop and just manage, you know, just rough it. Now, my 7th talking point for this video would be around tenancy responsibilities. So here in the UK, tenants have certain responsibilities which are vital to understand before you sign the tenancy agreement. For instance, when it comes to maintenance and repair, while the landlords are generally responsible for major repairs, tenants must report any damages promptly and take care of minor issues like replacing light bulbs or ensuring the property is kept clean. Also, here in the UK, landlords are responsible for the building insurance, but you as a tenant, you can't consider taking out content insurance to cover your belongings in case of necessity. It's not important, to be fair. Now, while some rental properties have bills included in the rent, some do not. So setting up the billing accounts, like for your gas, water, electricity, and internet, would be your responsibility if the property you're renting is not bills inclusive. So you need to put that in mind. So you want to compare providers to find like the best deals here in the UK when it comes to utilities, basically. Now, my 8th talking point would be on rental scams. Unfortunately, rental scams do exist here in the UK, and immigrants can be particularly vulnerable to these scams, or can fall for these scams, because obviously they are new to the UK. They probably might not know about it. So always view a property in person or virtually through a verified agent. Avoid making payments in cash or transferring or maybe wiring money abroad to someone who says they own the house abroad. And be cautious of deals that seems too good to be true. Trust your instincts. If the rental deal seems too good to be true, then it is probably too good to be true. Now, the 9th talking point would be on rental negotiation. Yes, you can negotiate your rent here in the UK. You don't have to pay the amount of rent they are asking you for. Now, here in the UK, rental prices in some areas may be negotiable, especially if the property has been on the market for a while. And it might not be negotiable if that place is like a hot market when it comes to renting. Now, what you want to do is to research the average rents in the area, and do not hesitate to negotiate for a better deal if appropriate. I mean, it's a business deal. The worst the landlord or letting agent can do is to decline your offer, and the best they can do is to accept your offer. Now, the last but not the least talking point to be on rental markets and availability. So here in the UK, the rental market can vary greatly depending on the time of the year and the area you are searching for a house in, like where you want to live. Now, demands in cities like Manchester, London, Birmingham, and Edinburgh can be very high, with properties being snapped up quickly. So like first come, first serve, whoever wants to pay what the rent is, that person that will give the house, so you might not be able to negotiate in these areas. So what you want to do is to start your research early, have your documentation ready, and be flexible with your moving date. This can help you secure a property faster when you are looking for a house in places like this. Now, in conclusion, renting a house here in the UK as an immigrant involves several important considerations, from understanding your legal rights and obligations to budgeting for essential costs and selecting the right location. So thorough preparation can help you ensure like a smooth transition and help you have like a seamless rental experience here in the UK, because trust me, there are a lot of horror stories about renting here in the UK. I hope that by taking these factors I've mentioned in this video into account, you'll be better equipped to find a comfortable and affordable home to rent here in the UK that suits your needs. Now, if you want to know the documents and the process of renting a house here in the UK, watch the video on your screen right now. It will provide you with a step-by-step guide of the process or what it entails to really rent a house here in the UK.